And let's start right away with quarterback. As we knew, the first 3 out of the first 4 picks were quarterback with you had Bryce Young going to the Panthers at 1. You had Stroud going to the Texans at 2. And then Richardson going at 4 to the Colts. Let's talk about the Richardson one. Obviously, you and I have followed him in the SEC and a lot of that stuff this offseason. Are you surprised that he went up that high? I know the Colts needed a quarterback, but are you surprised that he was the one they chose?
I'm not, because you look at him, he compares a lot to Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts was way more accurate than Richardson is, but the athletic ability, the ability in that to run that offense you just did with Jalen Hurts, because Steichen's the head coach there in Indy now. It doesn't surprise me that they went Anthony Richardson, although part of it does, because we were seeing all over the place. And I mean, the owner kind of proved it with his tweet right after the pick that said the owner wanted Will Levis. GM wanted Anthony Richardson. They got Anthony Richardson, and then Irsay was like, okay, how do people feel about taking Will Levis in the second round if he's there? I was just like, dude, come on, you can't be doing that. Like,
Dan Snyder right there. RG3 and Kirk Cousins. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But if you I don't think he should play early. He's going to. 4th overall pick pretty much dictates he's going to play early. They desperately need to fix that offensive line, and they need to hand that ball off to Jonathan Taylor a ton.
Yes.
But this is the guy that you could argue has the highest ceiling of the quarterbacks, but he also clearly has the lowest floor of the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks. Like, it's a risky game Indy played by taking him.
Yeah, and it was kind of surprising. I wasn't one of these people that was on board with him going as early as he had, and we've talked about some of the shortcomings. But like you said, this guy's an athlete. He can be a Jalen Hurts, absolutely. I hate to use this name, but he can also be a Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. But he has the ability to play, and he can do it. But some of the stuff that should be extremely easy for you as an NFL quarterback, they make a little more difficult than it should be. So, and, for the Colts, who are definitely in transition, who are more and more, Irsay is looking kind of like Dan Snyder, which is interesting because there's actually news out there that Irsay is coming after us because we tried to come after Andrew Luck in 2019. We're just connected at the hip. It's not good. But if I know anything about bad owner in that situation, it's not going to be pretty out there. And I feel for him. But look, let's go on down the list. I mean, we got the top 5 guys. We talked about him as one of the big surprises. Chris, you were with us in the comments that said this next guy, Will Levis, who dropped to the 2nd round, you said he was going to be a bust. And, I mean, his girl left him at the draft on opening day. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is kind of – we've seen what happened. Is this going to be like an Aaron Rodgers where in 15 years he's one of the greatest to do it? Or is this going to be a Josh Rosen?
That's a tough one because, I mean, you can make the argument. I know a lot of people thought Aaron Rodgers should have gone first that year when just coming out of Cal, but he also went to a phenomenal situation.
Yep.
I don't know that I'd call Tennessee a phenomenal situation. You got Derrick Henry to hand off to for we don't know how much longer. You got a bad offensive line, not too much a wide receiver. A coach that is arguably on the last year. If Tennessee starts to stumble here, he's gone. A quarterback ahead of him that says it's not my job to mentor him. So it's a tough one. I've said all along that it wouldn't shock me 5 years from now he's the best quarterback in this draft. Yeah. It also wouldn't shock me if he's on his 3rd team.
Right.
He's another very boom or bust kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, hopefully for him, he can, succeed in the NFL. You want these guys to do well. But one of the things Will and I talked about was, we saw how he didn't have Chris Rodriguez in those first 4 games this year, and he struggled. He struggled mightily. And we look at Chris Rodriguez a year ago when he had, almost 1,400 yards, or 2 years ago, but he had almost 1,400 yards, and how everybody had projected Will Levis to be the next Andrew Luck, the best pro style quarterback and everything. But when he didn't have a running game, it was very interesting. On top of the fact that you got Tannehill, who's very open about, this is my job until otherwise stated. And then you got Malik, which is the opposite of Levis in the sense that Malik was last year's Anthony Richardson. His ceiling was extremely high, but so was his floor. It was extremely low. And we saw what version of him we got. So it's going to be interesting to see where Levis plays into that whole role. And if he gets a little attention, man, we'll see. We will see. It's going to be, I don't know what to expect from him. But Tennessee, you're right. Tennessee is not, that's not a spot you don't want to end up. Go ahead.
Just going off of Chris's last comment there, he hasn't openly said again this year that it's not my job to mentor him, but he did say this seems like deja vu, referencing the quarterback last year and everything that went along with it. Yeah. So it might be a stretch to pull it's not my job to mentor him again, but when he says it's like deja vu, you kind of see the pieces falling in line there. And the rebuilt offensive line, we just got to see it. Yeah. Because the pieces are there 100%. They did a good job addressing it. We just got to actually see it come into play.
Right.
I love this response for them.
And even though, we know what he said or didn't say last year, he might not have said it this year. But the fact of the matter is, 2 years in a row, your team has spent an early pick on a quarterback. Mm-hmm. That doesn't bode well, in my opinion, for you, especially like when you got a coach that, like Alex said, on his way out. It's going to be interesting to see, what happens, how early they bring him in. The Tennessee fans need that to kind of get them jump-started. Let's think about what they've dealt with. People have said, they're on their last leg. They're in rebuild mode. Their coach potentially on his way out. There were potentially talks and rumors of them shopping the best player on their team. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns around. Let's look at some of the other picks. Jake Haener went to the Saints. Stetson went to the Rams. You guys, what I think is a steal in Hendon Hooker. Is this the future, or are we just, it's just like, hey, you just sit back, hold the clipboard for now? What are you thinking on Hendon Hooker?
This is a guy we probably don't see play for at least 2 years. And they're also in talks now with Goff on a possible extension, so we might not see him play in a Lions uniform, honestly. This is just insurance. It's still Goff's job. There's no heat on Goff for like, hey, Hendon's coming to take your job. This is just if they don't get the extension done with Goff, they're not completely screwed. You can have a guy learn the offense for a couple of years, come in, get used to the weapons. And this was my number 3 quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And to get him in round 3 as the 5th quarterback off the board, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I know it. And this is another one where the more I think about it, the more I love the pick.
Yeah, he can definitely, and especially under a year of tutelage, I think he can definitely be a valuable asset to your team. And is there anybody else that got picked up? The Cliffords, Sean Clifford went to the
Green Bay
Packers. Tanner McKee, the Eagles. Jaron Hall going to the Vikings. DTR to Cleveland. Who is there? Anybody else later on down the list? I know Aiden O'Connell went to the Raiders. I like that because he might be getting some action. Is there anybody else on the list that maybe you're surprised about, or Duggan fell all the way to the end?
Yeah, that one surprised me a bit. The 3 that were kind of my big surprises that I really liked: Haener to the Saints. I really like that one.
Oh yeah.
O'Connell, like you said, and I just had it in my head.
Who do you go to?
I don't know. It completely spaced. I'm gonna look it up here and then see if I can get back to it. But man, how did it go that quick?
Right on the tip of your tongue. You're like, wait a minute. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had it there, and then I like went to go like start that sentence, and then it just poof gone.
Let's see. We got.
I'm just looking up literally every quarterback drafted to see like okay,
Yeah.
if I see it, then it might come back to
Was
mind.
it Clayton Tune?
No.
DTR. Duggan. Is this?
Oh, Jaron Hall.
Yeah.
Going to Minnesota with Kirk Cousins on the last year of his deal. We don't know what's happening there.
Yeah.
So this gives him a potential head start on whatever quarterback comes in next if they don't bring Cousins back.
Oh yeah.
I love that pick.
Oh yeah. And look,
as a Lions fan, I hate the pick, but
right. and shout out to Andrew Faubert, who since the middle of the season has been touting this guy, has been talking about Jaron Hall out of BYU. I mean, definitely a great dual threat quarterback whose record didn't exactly wasn't an example of how well he could play. He actually kept them in a lot of those games and a tough schedule, mind you. He had a number of tough games earlier in the year. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to Andrew Faubert. So you just hopped in there.